Welcome back to Houston Life. It is time now for our H-Town Sit Down.
Let's meet today's guest.
Like so many of us, she's a Houston transplant, arrived in the 80s to attend Rice University. She never thought she'd stay, but she got hooked on H-Town and has made it her life mission to understand our ever-changing city. She's been a reporter for the Houston Chronicle, managing editor for the Houston Press, but now she's joined the Graham Media team, launching a daily podcast that helps others understand the hard-hitting, the funny, and the weird of Houston. Please welcome the host of CityCast Houston, Lisa Gray.
And Lisa Gray is here in studio with us. It's so great to see you.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
This is so great. We had a really fun conversation, short one during the commercial break. But how cool of a job is this? I know your resume is quite long. You've done all these really great things here in the city, but this is really awesome to focus on such kind of bizarre and very unique stories for our city.
I have spent, the past, 3 decades trying to understand this place. What makes Houston, Houston? And getting to do it every day is such a kick.
Well, there's a newsletter and a podcast, and we were chatting during the break about today's podcast, which is all about iced tea. And the big question, sweet, unsweet iced tea, it's sort of a regional thing, but also personal preference.
Sure.
And after listening to the podcast, which I think was 16 or 19 minutes today, I thought, wow, it's so fascinating. I just spent 20 minutes of my life listening to this iced tea thing. And I think the magic about CityCast is that you can really dive into topics maybe people don't typically think twice about.
Right, why is iced tea not sweet in Houston? Are we not part of the South? And it shouldn't be sweet. This is a line I will draw.
Those are fighting words for a lot of people, including my house. My son Connor, as I was telling you during the commercial break, he is a sweet tea fanatic, and so we'll have to continue this conversation at home. Let's talk about the very first podcast. What was the topic that you did, and why did you choose that particular one?
The first one that we did was about the Ion building in Midtown. It's in that old Sears building.
Yeah.
It's Rice's new tech accelerator. And one of the questions was, A, is it a good building? And B, is it gentrifying the neighborhood? Is it driving out people in a way that it shouldn't? So we don't always do the fun stuff.
Right.
That was kind of fun.
It was interesting, though.
Yeah.
And talk about how this podcast started and also your trajectory, because spending all the time you did at the Chronicle and then Houston Press, what was it about this format that attracted you?
Okay, so CityCast is owned by the Graham family. They used to own the Washington Post.
Our parent company as well, we should note.
Okay. Houston is the third city. They are trying to build a network of podcasts and newsletters that connect people to their cities. And I love that idea. And I also love podcasting. It's a chance to be really close to people. You're literally in their ears while they are vacuuming or walking the dog. And it's just this really intimate connection. And in Houston, where people often feel kind of adrift, that's an extra great thing.
It's really great to, I know that you've lived here for a long time, and I think people are constantly, whether you're, born and raised here or a transplant, constantly finding new things about the city. And people say that about the show as well. Oh, wow, I've lived here my whole life and I didn't know that. What has surprised you along the way in doing your due diligence on trying to find topics and things? What's kind of surprised you?
I am surprised every day. The big surprise yesterday was about possums. I found out that they have pouches. They're marsupials. So like a kangaroo, they have a pouch, but it's vertical. So I met a possum at the Houston Arboretum's Raptor Center, and I saw the keeper put her hand inside a possum, which
crazy.
Maybe just a finger.
And if you read the newsletter too,
Violet.
you can see the photo that is worth
The
seeing.
cross-eyed possum. You can't unsee that.
The
Right.
cross-eyed
She's
possum.
kind of
And
adorable.
Violet, right? Violet?
Yeah.
Right?
I
Violet
wasn't sure it
Pickles.
was a real possum at first, but it is.
She looks like a teddy bear.
Also,
Anyway.
for people who have lived here for a long time, like our boss was chatting today about Rice University and how 100 years ago, many students were attracted to Rice because they were avid duck hunters. That's sort of an interesting fact.
I loved learning that one. Yeah, that was one of the things that we learned from Jaime Gonzalez, our environmental contributor, who was sort of taking us back on Google Earth one day to look at Houston before there were freeways. And I was fascinated.
You know, you hit on something I think is the way that we view and listen to podcasts. It's now part of our routine, like you say, whether we're, doing chores or we're walking or commuting back and forth. But I think there is something very personal about being able to hear someone's voice tell a story. Is that what you love about it? Because I know you've been a writer for a long time, so now it's your voice that we get to hear.
Also, podcasting is just easier than writing. It's so much faster. And it's not like TV. You don't have to put on makeup.
It's still an intense job, it seems, though, because the newsletter comes out every morning at 6 a.m. It is in my inbox, and there's a wide range of topics. Obviously, we've talked about some of the feature reporting you have done in this format, but you're also talking about current events, recently talking about abortion in Texas, talking about the Uvalde shooting. And so on the daily download or read of the newsletter, what are you hoping your readers and listeners are taking away from it?
I hope they're getting the stuff that they need to know right now just to function. So for instance, with the abortion ruling, what might you need to know if you or someone you love need to get an abortion? I hadn't realized, for instance, how important it is to watch your telephone privacy. And so I thought that was something, people in Texas need to know. My Houstonian readers need to know this.
Lisa, we have about 30 seconds left. So what's on the horizon for the newsletter, the podcast? I mean, we're not going to give a lot away because we want people to subscribe and listen, but what's coming up?
On Monday, we're talking with a law firm a small Houston law firm that has the nerve, the energy, the bravery to support its employees who need to travel out of state to get an abortion. Why they thought they could do it and why they did it.
Hard-hitting issues, also water cooler talk and controversy like sweet or unsweet tea. You cover it all. Lisa Gray, thanks so much for stopping by Houston Life.
This was so great.
And for our viewers, if you would like to check out the CityCast Houston podcast or newsletter, you can visit our website and look for the Scene on Houston Life section. Fascinating.
Do check out the Instagram because Violet the possum is on there and she is pretty cute.
She's a cutie. I love possums. They are very misunderstood animals.